Yeah, if you would explain the different part of yoga, as yoga is, some might think it's just exercising, or some might think it's just meditation, you know, but as there's so many aspects and I don't know all of them, so that would be interesting.
Well, yoga it's a culture. It's a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a way of yoga eating, yoga food, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, if you say yoga food, are you talking about Ayurvedic food or even something else?
Yoga food means, well, it must be vegetarian. Mm-hmm. It must be vegetarian. The yoga diet is there. So it's a vegetarian diet.
It's not vegan, it's vegetarian.
Not vegan.
Vegetarian, no. That's the only criteria?
Well, no, that's one aspect of yoga.
Well, no, but
the diet.
For the diet.
For the diet, well, vegetarian, lacto-vegetarian means you can take milk products, mm-hmm. not vegan. Mm-hmm. The yogis, they will keep cows. They mm-hmm. like cows, and they will drink the milk. Mm-hmm. And they use also the ghee. Mm-hmm. They put oil outside the body and ghee for inside the body. So the yoga diet is like that. That we want to use what is natural. Mm-hmm. It should be things which are actually grown locally, mm-hmm. not things which you have to bring from faraway places, mm-hmm. but you want to eat what's actually produced locally. Mm-hmm. What you ideally you want to grow it yourself, mm-hmm. your own things you can produce from the land. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people, they will only eat what they grow. Mm-hmm. They won't eat anything from bought outside, you know. You want to grow it themselves, mm-hmm. and they will live on that. And China also is like that. Mm-hmm. People will do it like that. So yoga lifestyle, you know, as I said, it's a culture. So there's yoga music. You know, yoga music is that music which will help to elevate our consciousness, mm-hmm. to think more deeply about our own self, which is conducive for meditation. You know, there are different kinds of sounds and they will affect the consciousness, mm-hmm. you know. Some sounds are very harsh and brutal and other sounds are very sweet and soothing. Like especially the sound of water, mm-hmm. running, you know, the sound of flowing water can be very nice, and the sound of
trees,
the breeze, the
breeze.
Sound of birds, like that, peacocks, mm-hmm. you know, they have their own sounds. The sound of the cows also. The kind of sounds that, you know, they're very pleasing to the ear. Mm. Some sounds are very frightening to the ear. So sound vibration, all of our different senses, our perception should be in such a manner that we can feel comfortable and calm and relaxed and take away the anxiety and tension of the world. So that you want to have food like that, you want to have music like that, you want to have an atmosphere like that, you know, the atmosphere, it should be natural, it shouldn't be, you know, a lot of traffic, the noise of the traffic, you know, and the pollution, and so many things. All these things just simply disturb the mind. You know, every time you hear like an ambulance or a fire engine go by, you know, and their siren is going and the sound is not pleasant to hear, you know. So we live in that kind of environment. It's very much the mode of passion. It's not conducive to meditation and to self-realization. We want to cultivate what is the mode of goodness. You know, if you read the Gita, it describes there are three qualities in nature. There's good, passion, and ignorance. So living in a city like Geneva, there's a lot of passion. And there's also ignorance that's also there. There's very less of goodness. Geneva's not too bad. They have quite a few parks with trees and so on, but it's mixed, passion and ignorance, as well with goodness. We want to enhance more, have more goodness in our life, rather than the passion and ignorance. So, cultivating goodness, we have to get away from the artificial parts of life and should be more natural living. Ideally should be simple living with high thinking. Living simply, depending on nature and contemplating the higher aspects of life. We want to think about where are we going from here, you know. We have to think that ultimately we're not going to stay here forever. So we have to also think about the future. So it's not wrong to think about the future. Means not just this life, but it means after we finish in this life, where do we go? You know, in Hindu society, when somebody dies, after their death, they'll have a meeting and they'll talk about the person, you see, and they'll talk about what he did in the world and what his contributions were and so on. They call it a Smriti Sabha. And Smriti is the memories, you see. So you come together to remember this person's contribution to the world, what they did to help the world. So we want to think also, you know, what have we done? What have we contributed in this life? You want to, when we leave the world, we should think, what are people going to say about me? You know, we have to think like that. And that will inspire us more to act in a manner which is more compassionate, more caring, more loving, and less selfish. So yoga is cultivating that consciousness. Yoga means to link. The word yoga is to link the body, the mind, and the soul. We want to link these things to the Supreme. So there's different methods of yoga. You know. Bhagavad Gita describes the three main paths: the karma yoga, yoga of action; dhyana yoga, yoga of knowledge; and bhakti yoga, yoga of devotion. Of course, there are other processes also. You know, Ashtanga yoga. Ashtanga yoga is one part of it.
What's happening? I don't understand.
Shall I ask?
No, you continue. I asked them.
Ashtanga yoga is quite popular, but generally people who do Ashtanga yoga, they only do one limb. Ashta means 8, and Anga means limbs. There are 8 limbs in Ashtanga yoga. Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. These are the Sanskrit words for the 8 levels of yoga. Yam and Niyam, the first 2, are the things we should do and the things we shouldn't do. You know, the prohibitions and the regulations. We shouldn't be greedy, we shouldn't get angry, we should control the mind and senses, we should be clean, we should be pure in our actions and in our thoughts and words, these kind of things. So this is described by Patanjali. Patanjali, he wrote a book about yoga, Patanjali, and he describes the different levels, the different limbs, the 8 levels. A book called the Yoga Sutras. Sutra means condensed. It's put in a short form. He just mentions the principles, the main points, you know, what you're supposed to do. So the Ashtanga Yoga is like that. It begins with rules and regulations. But people today, popular today, they won't do it. They won't bother to do the rules and regulations. They will just simply do the asana. They like the gymnastic part. And if you ask them, what about the first part, you know, are you vegetarian? Oh, no, we'll worry about that later. You know, they just want to do the asanas. And pranayama is the nose pressing yoga. People do that. It's good for health. You can do that. But the real purpose of the pranayama is to prepare you for meditation. To prepare you for meditation. The pranayama, you have to sit. And you should sit still, you know. People are not much accustomed to sitting in one place for a long time. But actually to do this Ashtanga Yoga, you're supposed to do that. You're supposed to sit still in one place. So the pranayama, the asana makes the body flexible first of all. And then the pranayama gets you to sit in one place and mechanically control the mind. And then you go on and pratyahara, dharana, jhana, they're different levels of meditation, concentration. First of all, pratyahara, not contemplating anything externally. Not seeing anything around us and cutting off your thoughts from anything around you in the external world. And pratyahara, dharana, and then turning the concentration within. And then dhyana, meditating on the super soul. Meditation, you have to fix the mind. We should fix the mind on form. There's a form, a personality which is there, which is in the heart. So the yogis will contemplate that form, a Vishnu form, which is in the heart. And then from meditation you come to samadhi, where you completely fix. The mind is fixed. It won't deviate. And one can remain in trance in the state of samadhi. So that's Ashtanga Yoga. And the Ashtanga Yoga can also lead to Bhakti Yoga, can also lead to devotion. Because once they contemplate the soul, the form within the heart, then one should think, what is the connection? The yoga, how to connect with it, how to link. So that comes about by action, by activities. You dedicate your activities for the pleasure of the Supreme. So karma yoga is yoga of action. People, like to be active, and they don't often know much about why they're doing something, who they're doing it for, but they like to do things. They have a good heart and they like to do things to help others. That's karma yoga. Detached work. Detached. Not attached to the result. not doing anything to get something, but doing it more for the concern of others, caring for others. In Jnana Yoga, one gets more knowledge. He may get association with somebody who is in knowledge, or he may read scriptures. Like I said, Yoga Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, Ramayana, Vedanta Sutra. There are many different scriptures we can read and get knowledge. You get knowledge about the soul, about our own self, about the mind, the nature of the mind and the working of the senses, all of these things. So you get a lot of information from reading scriptures and come to the platform of knowledge. So with knowledge, then one is more able to meditate because you have information about the soul, about what the form of the soul is and how to meditate on it. So that's Jnana Yoga. Karma Yoga, they didn't have that knowledge, but Jnana Yoga, they get that knowledge. And then that Jnana Yoga is meant to lead to Bhakti, which is devotion. Understanding that there's a Supreme and we're connected to the Supreme through loving service, by Bhakti, by devotion. So, to get that knowledge about Bhakti, you have to get that connection with someone who has Bhakti. Someone who's got Bhakti, they can give you Bhakti. It's difficult to get it on our own. Just to find it on our own, then it will take much longer time. But if somebody's got that Bhakti, they can give it to us. How do they give it? Just simply by talking to us, by teaching us, by telling us about the nature of life and the nature of the mind and the senses and how to overcome the obstacles of life and how to proceed towards the goal of life. What is the goal of life? I have to understand there's something ahead. We can get that information from those people who have bhakti. So, bhakti is contagious, just like some diseases, they're contagious. If somebody has typhoid, they can give it to others. You know, wherever they go, people will get typhoid. They'll get the disease also. But if you contact somebody who's got bhakti, who's got devotion, they can give you that also. They can give you this devotion, this connection to the Supreme. And that connection to the Supreme is very attractive, and it's considered that's the topmost level of yoga, to develop that devotion, to develop that bhakti, that devotion. So it has to come about mainly through hearing and questioning and contemplating, understanding, we can come to that level, bhakti. And once we come to bhakti, then there's nothing after that, there's nothing higher than that in the yoga ladder. That's the top of the yoga ladder. One who has bhakti, then he is satisfied in himself. He doesn't want anything in this world. He is satisfied within his own self. But just to have that bhakti, that mood of devotion. So he doesn't contemplate about material prosperity or any kinds of success in the material world. He's completely satisfied with the mood of devotion to the Supreme. And that is bhakti, that's what we want to attain. We can come to that level. The yogis and different yogis generally, they want mystic power. Some yogis, they want to get power, you know, they want to control the world. There are different yoga powers, yoga siddhis they're called siddhis. Some yogis can fly, some yogis can walk over water, some yogis can produce something from far away just by contemplating it in the mind. And just by contemplating in the mind, things can rise up off the table, you know, they have that kind of mental power. But that's not the ultimate goal of yoga. Those kind of powers are attractive to materialistic people, but it's not the highest level of yoga. It's materialistic. And these yogis, although they have that power, they're not really peaceful. They're not satisfied. Because somebody may have more power than them. So then they're, you know, they compete with them. Who's the most powerful? And this way, they're not peaceful. They're not satisfied. And they're always striving to get more fame, to get more recognition. They don't have that inner peace, which is really the goal of yoga.
Do you know any people not eating, just living from prana?
Well, there are people just living on prana, yes. Maybe you go to
they often live in like communities, or?
Usually they go to Himalayas.
To be alone? Or?
Yes, to be alone. Yes. Usually because they're not going to talk. They're controlling the mind and senses, restraining. And just simply contemplate the inner self. So they won't live in a community. They'll be on their own. And they'll go into trance. Remain in trance, living on the prana. So they can be like, in India, they have a festival at where the Ganga, the river Ganges, meets the Yamuna. It's at a place called Prayagraj. And they have a festival there every 12 years. Once every 12 years. And it's in the month of January or February, in the beginning of the year. So there will be yogis who will come for that once every 12 years. And there will be they can be hundreds of years old, but they look like just young men, you don't know. And they won't tell anyone. They're not going to be trying to get recognition. But they will come, and they will come, they'll take their bath in the holy rivers at the auspicious time. And they'll go back. After the bathing there, they'll go back to their place in the mountains and continue their meditation.
And they live up there for many years, actually.
Yeah, they live there a long time. That's not really the goal, you know. You can have a long life. The trees also live a long time, but the tree doesn't really have a high consciousness. You know, some trees are hundreds of years old, but that's not the goal of life. We have to consider the consciousness. If you just live hundreds of years, so what? What's your goal? What's your purpose? just to have a long life. You still have to give up the body one day. So just to have a, there were great people, very great personalities like Shankaracharya. Did you ever hear his name?
No.
Shankaracharya. He's an incarnation of Lord Shiva. And he came in the world like 1200 years ago. 1200 years ago. So he was in the world only 32 years. But he wrote some very profound teachings. He wrote in the Sanskrit language, and these teachings are read and appreciated even today.
Put the name down. Would you please put me the name of that person?
What's your goal of life, Cecil? You're asking about yoga.
Well, if I really knew, I would be already quite a step further up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just started thinking about it a couple of years ago. So, thank you. Do you know yours?
Mine is also with yoga. I'm not very interested to continue like this in life after life with this world, material world. Every time there is death and then the birth again. And the scripture says that we have an eternal life. And we are an individual person in the spiritual world, and there is God who is also an individual. He is a personality, and we have a loving relationship with Him, just like how you both are friends. We have some relation. Each one is a soul, and each one has a relationship with Him. And by re-establishing that relationship, only by re-establishing that relationship, we can be truly happy and satisfied. That's all mentioned. Yes, it's there. Right, Guru Maharaj? Here, it's a reflection of the spiritual world. The material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. But there is not eternal happiness here. Even, for example, here we have love, right? Love between man and woman. Love, yeah. So initially it's very sweet, it is very sweet, but after some time it results in some misery. We get separated. It's not fully satisfying, the relationship. But it said, like in the spiritual world, it's pure. It doesn't have lust, so it's very satisfying. There are all kinds of relationships, even in the spiritual world: friendship, parental love, conjugal love, like this. It's all mentioned. So, and they say this material world is just 1/4 of the spiritual world, and these are for the people who don't want to coordinate with the Supreme. We are the souls who don't want to coordinate with Him. That's what they have said. And but they also say, like, it takes lifetimes for only some few souls can think all this, why I'm here, what is happening after I go. Not everybody. It takes
well, they maybe can, but they are they don't want to cross that barrier. They're not ready to want to know. So.
I started chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. I started with every day 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And then after 1 year, I was practicing actually many things parallelly, because I want to have a path, some meditation, oneness, something and all. I thought this Hare Krishna will work the least for me. I was practicing 10 minutes, and then after 1 year, I thought it really works for my mind. Then I increased the meditation time of telling Hare Krishna. It's like you have to Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, like this. You have to concentrate on the sound. And it's said by Chaitanya, who gave the mantra, it purifies your mind. And gradually we will be able to understand the philosophy. Even Maharaj is really very elevated. And even if he presents everything, we are not in a state to understand it because our senses are not so purified. But he's always, he's very kind that he wants to give this to people like you who are inquisitive, wants to understand. And then you have to, maybe if you're in, you have to read the books, some of the books, and see if you're convinced and start chanting. That's what we suggest if you want to do the Bhakti Yoga. The Ashtanga, the other yoga systems, I don't know,
Other yoga systems?
Other yoga systems are not very effective for me. I could say that I was practicing pranic healing meditation. What they will do is they activate the chakras. From there is a meditation, I have to sit and they open the heart chakra. There is not full information also. I was actually doing that. Then it doesn't have the full information, like it doesn't say clearly that you are a spirit soul, and now you are convinced about it, right? Like we are a spirit soul. Are you convinced about this point? And if we are a spirit soul, then the next question is what's the nature of that spirit soul? And the nature is we are eternal, full of happiness. They say like that, not like now. It's our body is not eternal. We have to die one day. We are not full of happiness, right? Everybody. No, not. So we are not that nature, definitely. And then the spirit soul is a part and parcel of one supreme. We all have one supreme, and then the spirit soul, we have a relationship with the supreme, and we have to find out the relationship with the supreme by practice of bhakti yoga. That's the I could say that's the essence. Something like that.
Yeah, there's many different techniques and beliefs which at the end don't say exactly the same but do say the same. I would say if you one is talking of prana, the other one is talking of chi, but it's the same, and even if they express it with different words, the final it's all coming together, you know. But yeah, it's not that easy to.
You have to
find your way of meditation.
You have to try. You have to try, and Krishna will help you to find, because he knows the heart of every person. Then there will be help from the Supreme. He knows why. You have to try. You have to try different ways and find out. Maybe, right, Guru Maharaj?
Yes. You know, some people, they will see God in the universe. They will see all the different features of nature as representing the Supreme, representing a Supreme Being. They will see, for example, the mountains as like bones on the body of the Supreme, and the rivers are like veins on the body of the Supreme. And the higher planet, the sun is like the eye of the person.
For me, it was difficult to think like this, Guru Maharaj.
But for some people, it's difficult for them to see how a deity can represent the Supreme. So they have to see it through nature, because they're not able to understand how
the deity,
how the manifestation of the Supreme can come in the form of a deity. Deity means that.
Yeah, I know. I understand what you say. Yeah, I think if you're not born in India and you are kind of educated with all the different deities, and because there's so many, for a stranger it's difficult to understand. You really have to study it profoundly or live there and study it, otherwise.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think this is not the essence of it. If you call it God, or you call it nature, or you call it deities, at the end, for me, it's all the same. Just some people feel more attracted by this or this.
Yeah. Certainly some people are more attracted to sit and silently contemplate the Supreme within. They think that's very spiritual. It can be spiritual, depends on their attitude, how they apply themselves to it. Other people, they will think it's very spiritual to do the yoga exercises, the Hatha Yoga. They think that's very spiritual if they can do the different postures, the gymnastics. And for other people, they think the pranayama, the controlling the breathing, they're thinking that is very great. So there's all different ways in which people will show their progress in the yoga discipline.
But there are also many bogus yogas nowadays. They go for the yoga school for a long time. There is no improvement, progress. Yes, there are many bogus yoga schools.
Well, it depends the teacher also, like for everything and everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
Because if sometimes nobody is pushing you a bit, you stay.
Yeah, the same thing. That's also there.
Or you push yourself, or you have a teacher who is pushing.
If you can heal the sick, then you're considered very powerful yogi.
If you can hear the sick.
If you can heal, if you can cure someone's disease. She was telling me there's this one lady who her saliva can cure people from leprosy.
Yeah.
From
leprosy.
There is one yogi in one in India. She has some
leprosy
powers.
Is where you have some worms in the blood eating the flesh. So.
Yeah. She can cure. She has through yoga you can also develop some powers. Powers, but doesn't mean that your heart is clean. You are perfected your life. But you can develop some power. Still is there. Some yogis can walk on the water. My friend said still a person I see he walks on the water. So he has developed some powers through yoga, which doesn't mean that he's a great person, like a god, like very pure. It doesn't mean like that. Yeah. So sometimes people go and they think they are like God. This people who has powers. That's what I see. It depends on what do you want to learn the yoga for. For example, you're asking Guru Maharaj about yoga, like the teacher. So what's your aim to learn yoga? Why you want to learn yoga?
For me, it's not that much about yoga itself. It was just a chance to know more about the different parts that go together, because I know it's not just exercise and it's not just meditation, but I didn't know.
There's a progression.
Together.
There's a ladder. One level of yoga to the other. Generally,
but where would you usually start then?
You usually start karma yoga. karma yoga. Karma yoga, the yoga of action.
Okay.
And you have to work in a detached manner. You do work for the benefit of the Supreme. You sacrifice the result of your work for the Supreme. That is called karma yoga.
For example?
Well, just like you may go to a temple and they may ask you to clean the floor. You clean the floor in the temple. That is like doing karma yoga. They're not going to pay you. You're just doing it for the service of the Supreme. In did you read Bhagavad Gita yet?
Part of
Bhagavad Gita?
You haven't read Bhagavad Gita. Anyway, Bhagavad, you should read it. You should get a copy.
Maybe I can give in a French Bhagavad Gita. I'll get you a French copy of Bhagavad Gita.
it's not the one you gave tomorrow, no?
No, that's a very small book. It doesn't, yes, it's also good, but it's just a few things. I will get you this French copy. Yeah.
Bhagavad Gita means the song of God.
The song.
Song.
Gita. Gita means song.
Song.
Yes, song. So Bhagavad means coming from Bhagavan. Bhagavan means the Supreme Personality of God. God. Krishna. So when Krishna speaks, they say Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Bhagavan said. They will say Lord Krishna said. Lord Krishna is called Bhagavan. Bhagavan means one who possesses opulence. Anyway, it takes, the speaking of Bhagavad Gita takes place on a battlefield before a great battle is taking place. And Arjuna is hearing, he's with Krishna, the two are together. Arjuna.
It doesn't have to be French, it can also be
English? Okay. Okay.
Sorry for it.
Arjuna is there with Krishna, the two, they're friends. Now Arjuna is supposed to fight, and Lord Krishna is driving his chariot. But Arjuna, when he came into the middle of the battlefield, he became bewildered and he thought, I don't want to fight, it's not right. And he was thinking it was not right. But Lord Krishna spoke to him and explained to him why he should fight. And he told him to do it as a karma yoga. And do it as a sense of duty without being attached to the result.
Not easy.
Not easy.
Not easy anyway, but by fighting even less easier to think of a karmic result.
Yeah, but these things will take time to understand, I have to read the book. I have to read the book several times. First time I opened, I couldn't really understand anything, even though I'm from it. Then it takes
Or
time.
you read and you forget too fast.
Yes, and we cannot understand. It takes time to understand. If you have to practice yoga. Anyway, I'll get you this copy of the book, Bhagavad Gita. You can read before. Yeah. Moro, do you have some questions? No? You want to try? We are all talking about yoga.
I'm learning.
Okay.
Bhagavad Gita is very well known, very famous all over the world. It's taken from the Mahabharata. Mahabharata is it's a bit more voluminous book, and Bhagavad Gita is part of the Mahabharata. Mahabharata is the history of the world, 5,000 years ago.
But that was written by someone
Yeah,
that is known.
yeah, written by Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva is a great
Sage.
personality, saintly personality.
When was it written?
Well, He spoke it 5,000 years ago, and he had Ganesh write it down. Ganesh was a scribe. Vyasa spoke, and Ganesh wrote down.
Because Vyasa Dev could see that this age is coming, Kali Yuga, it's called as Kali Yuga.
That we're in now?
It's called as Kali Yuga. He predicted the symptoms of the Kali Yuga, that people will be short-lived, they will be quarrelsome, even for the slightest misunderstanding they will quarrel, and they are misfortunate, all these symptoms. In fact, there is also a symptom like people will think if they have different hairstyles they can be beautiful, something like this. He has predicted the symptoms of he predicted that it's going to be very bad. So then he thought he have to write it down with all the knowledge, and he has written it down, the Vedas, and this is an important part of the his book. Yes, India.
It stays only in one book, or are there many volumes?
The Bhagavad Gita?
Bhagavad Gita is one book.
Only one book. Yes.
There are 18 chapters in the Bhagavad Gita. There's 700 verses. 700 verses in Sanskrit, which are translated. And the system is usually with each verse, the person who's writing, who's translating, will give a comment. He will explain the verse. Give some.
Every verse is explained.
Yeah, you should definitely worth reading, going through a book. Yeah. Okay. So
Bhagavad Gita is a book for life. You can read it your whole life. And every time you read it, you get something new from it. That's the nature of these books, that they're not ordinary, they're not like a newspaper, you know. You put it down and throw it away, but Bhagavad Gita, you want to read it again and again. There's a message there.
Where are you going next after Geneva?
I'm going to Amsterdam, Rotterdam.
next week we are ready to book the ticket. We have to book the tickets. He's leaving on next Friday.
You're going to see someone you know there?
Yeah.
Do you also give teachings to like conferences or things like this?
Yeah, when the time arises, then we do that also. Yeah. Sometimes in India, and sometimes do it online.
Yeah, he gives nice classes.
We teach courses online for Bhagavad Gita and so on. There's courses on it.
Which talk about what exactly?
Talk about
What do you talk about in these teachings?
Well, talk about the Bhagavad Gita, the message of the Bhagavad Gita. Explain everything.
Okay.
What's going on, what's being taught there. You have to go through the Bhagavad Gita yourself and see.
Cannot be
As I
explained.
said, the three main yogas: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. But other yogas are also included. We'll learn about material nature. We'll learn about God. We'll learn about the living entity. We'll learn about karma. These things. All described in Bhagavad Gita. 5 main topics are there.
Yeah. Who is God? Who are the living entities? What's karma? What's the material world? And what's
the living entities?
What's the living entities?
Living entity are all souls. We're all souls.
Talking about the souls.
Yes.
Ah, okay.
Vedas describe there are 8,400,000 different species of life. So there are plants and animals, there are fish, birds, there are insects, there are trees. These are all different species of life. So the human species of life,
So they are considered also part of it.
they're also souls. Yes, they're all living entities. They have life. The life comes from the soul. Without the soul, then it's a dead body. The difference between the living and the dead, there's no soul in the dead. But something is alive, it's alive because there's a soul. This consciousness is coming from the soul. Now the consciousness will be different in different bodies. Just like the consciousness in a tree is going to be different from the consciousness within an animal or a human. The consciousness in the human form of life is considered the highest.
And do you think that there's also other entities like extraterrestrial something?
There's life everywhere. There's life all over the universe. There's life in other planets, yes. We believe there's life also on other planets, other places. Life is not limited to just this planet. Of course, the atmosphere on this planet arranges for a particular life, form of life. But the atmosphere on other planets will be a different form of life. Just like on the sun planet, you have fire, so there can be fire bodies. There can be life within fire. And there can be life in a gaseous planet, just gas, can be in the form of gas.
Well, on the stars.
No, not on the Earth, on other planets.
He is asking on the stars.
On the stars.
Stars, yes. Stars too, or only planets?
Well, stars, there's also stars, there's also living entities there. Everywhere there's life. Everywhere. Different levels of life. Different places throughout the universe. And the stars and the other planets also.
And you believe that they can come and visit us or things like that?
Well, there are people who have seen some kind of other beings from.
Yeah, because there's some unexplained things like constructing the pyramids, these enormous rocks in South America that cannot be carried or transported by any human being as we know it on this earth. Or this, you have these symbols in the fields. I don't remember how you call it. Remember? Like symbols in the field.
Chrome circles.
Yeah, that they're amazingly done, like perfectly round, and it cannot be done by human. I mean, you see it and you see that it cannot.
Yes, there are many things we cannot explain. That's why we believe there's life in other places, not just only here. It's very short-sighted to think life is only here on this planet. So we accept that there are different levels of life. There are higher planets, heavenly planets like that, where they will have a long life and they have a lot of powers, supernatural powers. And there are lower planets also. There's regions below and where you have hellish planets. And there's also a region which is called subterranean heavenly planet. It's in the lower region of the universe, but it's very opulent. So the Vedas describe these different things. They describe different conditions throughout the universe. But they say also that everywhere within the universe is a place of birth and death. That there's everywhere that you take birth, one day you also die. So the life is temporary, it's not eternal. But the Vedas tell us there's another world which is beyond this world, which is beyond the material creation, which is eternal, which is not subject to destruction. And that is the spiritual world. And in the spiritual world, there are far more living entities living there and enjoying a life of eternal bliss and knowledge. And by yoga, you can go there. We can travel there by yoga. So different types of yoga can take you to different places. Some yoga can elevate you to higher planets within the universe, but bhakti yoga can take you beyond the universe into the spiritual realm. You never have to come back.
Or you can choose, that's what some say.
Yeah. Can choose. Yeah, we have
if you wanna stay there or go back.
Yeah.
Time passes and luckily I just
Yeah, I was also thinking we should stop.